Well, hello again, everyone, to another wonderful interview with our writers from this year's Unbound Advent Devotional, Trans Advent. And we are so excited for this devotional, everybody. It's just a great way to also center the voices of a lot of perspectives and voices that have often been or have tried to be silenced by the faith community and society and and everything else. And so we are so grateful to welcome Petra Strand to this wonderful interview, our writer interview. And Petra, thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, tell all the folks out there a little bit about yourself.
Well, I transitioned in 2015 while I was a Presbyterian pastor. I had been working in the ministry, part-time and full-time for about 25 years, in New York and New Jersey, mostly New Jersey, and went to seminary at Union Theological back in the 90s and early 2000s. And recently, this past January, just a week before the presidential inauguration, we moved to Portugal
Okay.
for obvious reasons.
Yeah. And how is Portugal? I love I've only been there once and I really loved it, but how is it?
Well, we're in northern Portugal. It's a beautiful country, beautiful people. They're very kind, very nice. As a trans woman, life has been, pretty easy here. I've been able to get the medical care that I need without any obstacles. Had to do a little searching, but there were no obstacles. Um, the language is difficult, and
Yeah.
it's gonna take us a while to my wife and I to learn Portuguese, and I think we need to learn Portuguese before we can really be comfortable. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's we're enjoying it, and we feel safe. I think that's what our objective was, and we've achieved that. So we feel
Yeah.
safe, and now as we learn the language, we'll be looking for new opportunities for ministry.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you are feeling safe in that space and have done all the things that you need to do that. And so I hope that all that works out for you. But again, we are so grateful that you are writing for us. And Unbound is a ministry of the Presbyterian Church USA. And we're so grateful that we have a lot of ecumenical voices and that have joined yours. And you are writing for the second midweek devotional for Advent. But I do wonder, especially in a time such as this, and as you were writing, what kind of things came up for you during this season of Advent, and what does Advent mean to you?
Um, Advent is, as we know, is a season for preparation. It's a preparation for the coming of the divine into our lives. And that's both the divine within us and in the world around us. So I think the we look to the story of Jesus, his first coming, and to the his manifestation in the world that is happening now and is yet to come. Um, Yeah, I forgot to mention that I'm also a member of a religious order, the Ecumenical Franciscans. So we have a very ecumenical perspective, and that's a spiritual practice, a spiritual discipline that kind of keeps us in a constant state of Advent, where we are
Yeah.
and preparing ourselves for the coming of the Lord and the coming of the divine into our lives. Um, I think for trans people, that's a very um, that can be very meaningful
Mm.
because of our search for authenticity and looking to find the divine image trying to meet the divine image in ourselves. One of the things Francis of Assisi talked about was, he would pray and he would ask, who are you? But he would ask, who am I? Who am
Mm,
I? Who am I in the sight of the divine? Um, who does the divine see in this encounter? Um, and that search for our own authenticity, our own image, is something I think that all trans people are involved in. And
yeah.
that's, I think, is really can be at the heart of Advent. Are we willing to risk that? Or do we continue to wear our masks and pretend that pretend someone else's game, someone else's show?
Yeah. I think that's so important for us to ask that question of ourselves, like who are we? And we all kind of, leading up to Christmas and Advent, like we all get so consumed with the holidays, and we have to buy presents, and we have to go here, we have to go there, and we can't stop for a second to, and not even just this time, that time of year and holiday season, but like every day there's so much going on. We're consistently bombarded with all the things that are happening, and we
Mhm.
don't take time to kind of ask ourselves, who are we? But and when we do that, I do think that it opens up a lot. It kind of opens up a can of worms, and a lot of people don't want to deal with that. But I think especially now, we have to start asking ourselves those types of questions, expect not in who we are, but also kind of like who we are, but also what does that mean for us and how we walk in this earth, and how we are in relationship with one another. I think that's so important. So I really appreciate that reminder for us in this season to ask ourselves who we are and to do that searching for that. Yeah, so important.
So when we're online a lot, um,
Mm,
we're bombarded with how other people see us,
mm,
and it's kind of good to step away from that a bit or a
yeah.
lot, and
Yeah.
not 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 be let ourselves be poisoned by some of that, but to really come home a little bit to ourselves, and maybe in a time of quiet, but it could also be in a time of expression and creativity, where we're not just hearing the voices of other people and what they
Yeah.
say, and the distortions that we're constantly bombarded with, and the threats, everything, that that whole environment. It's good to step into the wilderness and find that quiet space to be with ourselves, however we do that. And we find
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, social media is, I do think it is a poison in many ways, that we are all comparing ourselves to other people, and but in realities that don't really exist. I think those things that we see online, those things are very curated, those things are very made up,
Mhm.
and to kind of offer us a maybe not a real idea of what life is for most of us, or for anybody
Mhm.
who is like an influencer or all those things. And so
Mhm.
that comparison, I think, has really damaged us a lot to say, oh, we have to be like that person, we have to do this, or how materialism and all those
Mhm.
types of things are so consuming us right now. And the holiday and like Advent and leading up to such a very commercialized holiday that Christmas has become, I do think it's so important for us to take a step back and say, you know, I am enough, and who I am is enough.
Mhm.
And that's so hard. We don't hear that often, is that we are enough and who we are is enough. And not saying we can't evolve or like figure things out and things change, but I think who we are, just telling someone that, I think for me, somebody told me that once, and it really changed my life to say, you actually are enough, and you
You
don't,
are enough.
yeah, you are enough. And to
You are enough.
remind people that, yeah.
and you are loved for who
Mhm.
you are. You don't need to be more. You don't need
Yeah.
to you don't need to become someone else to be
Yeah.
loved.
Yeah. And
And
that's
that's
always a
something
good to be reminded. Yeah.
and it's good to be in community and defined community where, especially in queer community, where people do love you for who you are. And, there where you don't have that expectation to measure up to some other standard. Just you are enough and you are
Yeah.
loved. And I think knowing having that embrace of community to remind you of that is a good way to be grounded in the divine love. I think the two are one is communicated by the other.
Yeah.
They're not so separate.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of community, I've been asking writers to offer up a word to our trans siblings and the trans community out there, because as we know, there's, especially in this country, there and all over the world, really, there's a lot of anti-trans legislation going on, and a
Hmm.
lot of hate, and a lot of fear mongering, and a lot of things that are happening that are targeting our trans siblings. And so I do wonder what you would say to our trans siblings in the trans community out there right now.
We just talked about knowing that you are loved.
Mm,
Finding if you don't have community, finding community. The queer community is a good place to begin. Um, but I also think it's important to say that you're worth protecting. You're worth
mm,
it's worth it for you to keep yourself safe and to not put yourself in harm's way. And there's a lot of threat, there's a lot of danger these days, and I think it's important that you value yourself enough that you keep yourself safe. Um, you are loved. If when I came out to myself before I came out to others, and it was after preaching for week after week for years on the gospel,
mm,
and one thing that I saw, I was preaching, I think it was the Gospel of Matthew that year, but or maybe it was, I don't know, but in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, all three, Jesus is continually embracing the people on the margins. It's those are the people, those are his people, those are the people that he is looking for. And as the son of the divine mother, the one who is seeking the divine one,
mm,
the divine mother's people. It's
mm.
the people on the margins that Jesus always went to. And you don't have to take my word for it. I mean, that's what I so that's what I would remind people. My trans people,
Mm.
that
Yeah.
the divine longs for you and wants you. You're not separated. I don't think of the divine as a I don't really have a father figure who's demanding conformity, but more of a mother who is
Yeah.
embracing her children. And I would also offer that maybe, if father figure isn't working, maybe try the mother figure, because it's very much there.
Yeah.
Also very rooted in my Franciscan associations, this idea of the divine as mother, even Jesus as mother.
Mm.
This idea that you let yourself be cared for. You are loved.
Yeah. And
And let
that's
go on.
such a good reminder. Yeah. That that we are, yeah, we are worth loving, and we are worth, being who we are and being so connected to the divine. And no
Mhm.
matter what someone tells us, is that actually, and I've been thinking about this a lot, is like, who are we as humans to say how connected we should be or should not be to the divine, when the divine can be there? Is that it's there, and we are a part of it. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's so beautiful in that we often, like you were saying, we try to separate out divinity from secular and culture and all
Right.
that, when really the divine is the creator of all of it and amidst all of it. And so I think that's so beautiful to be reminded that we are also a part of that divine blessing. And I know
Yes.
I'll even take that with me because I have to be reminded of that as well. Yeah.
She's everywhere. And it's interesting that in the Hebrew, the word for face, the divine face, that she shows her face, it's the word is plural.
Mm,
And that, you know, her faces are everywhere. Every face who loves you, who acknowledges you, it's the divine face looking at you. Her presence permeates the whole creation.
mm,
Um, yeah, I mean, there's no separation. And you are already, she's already in you.
mm.
You
Yeah.
know, you're not.
And that's beautiful. I think that's I think that's so beautiful. I really do. And I hope people take that with them. Uh Hearing this, if you have to watch this over and over again, if it takes that many times for it to sink in, that you are reminded of that. But Petra, thank you so much for being a part of this and writing for us and talking with me a little bit. Every time I've had an interview with one of the writers of Trans Advent, I've come away with a lot of hope, and I've come away with a lot of assurance that
Mm,
we are loved, and that to me
mhm.
bears repeating over and over again. So I think I really see such a divine power in all of you and the writing and what's going out there for people to read. So I'm very grateful for you, and I'm very grateful for this time to be
Thank
with you.
you. It's
Yeah,
our strength. Thank
it
you. Thank you
is.
very
It
much.
is. So just to remind folk that you can find Trans Advent, this year's Unbound devotional, at justiceunbound.org/Trans Advent, and all these videos will be attached to that. You can find all the videos on our YouTube channel, and you can just search on YouTube; it'll pop up. But yeah, check it out, and we will be back with another wonderful interview with another writer of Trans Advent.